And let's get started. So welcome. You can tell that it's chilly. I literally have 2 sweaters on here in Vermont. It's kind of snow sleeting right now. Good times. So I am going to share my screen, and I'll have you right, I can see most of you. Let's see if that stays. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, if you're not in the car at the moment. Okay. All right, so human design. I sort of tried to tailor this based on kind of our focus on business in this group here. So in terms of the time that we have tonight, my intention is that hopefully you will learn something that expands your possibilities, potentially helps you to see something differently, and maybe even provide some insight into your business. And a word about entrepreneurship, sort of related to human design. Just, I'm sure we all realize that owning a business really demands significant personal development. And I like to try to frame it as positively as possible, as an opportunity really for growth, trusting yourself, trusting that it's an opportunity for you to really embody the life that you're meant to live here and kind of carry out your dreams, which if any of you have like filtered your dreams in any way or kind of tried to make them smaller in some way to fit into, expectations of family, friends, society in general, or whatever, this is just a reminder for you that your dreams are meant for you. Those things that keep coming back to you and that excite you are literally in your heart by design. So this is a reminder to really focus on them and sort of a permission slip to kind of lean into them. So how many of you are familiar with human design? Lisa Townsend, not really. Okay, heard of it? Yes, okay. Ashley, feel free to unmute and pipe in if it works for you as you're driving. So just a quick review then. Human design in a nutshell, it's a system of systems, so an amalgamation really, with the ultimate goal of you better understanding yourself and your energy and how it works. So the systems that are part of human design are the chakra, which is, there are actually 7 centers in the chakra system, and there are 9 in the human design system. And okay, Ashley says new for her. The I Ching, the Kabbalah or the Tree of Life, genetics, quantum mechanics, and astrology. So brings all of those together into this lovely little body graph. This is mine as an example. And essentially it's like an artsy science of understanding your like personal energetics. And the reason it's kind of artsy is because although there's a lot of science in it, there's also, interpretation and how it actually plays out in your life. So I wanted to review the types. So when we talk about human design, we usually start by talking about energy types. And your energy type is really how you kind of function in the world and how your energy, how your aura is and interacts with other people in the world. And knowing this component of human design alone can be a game changer for a lot of people, especially the quote non-energy types, because most of us, the majority of people are sacral beings. And those people who are not tend to, because we live in kind of a generator world, those people can be conditioned a lot more to kind of fall in with those sacral types. And this will make a little bit more sense when I start talking about generators, but I'm going to talk about manifestors first, because they are kind of the powerhouses. And it's also really great to run your human design charts for the people in your family or with whom you live, because knowing their energy type and how they are meant to function in the best possible way is really helpful. So manifestors, super, super powerful. They have a really big aura that's kind of, it's like repelling. And some manifestors are a little disappointed to hear that, but actually the reason that their aura is repelling is because they are only 8% of the population. They're super powerful, and a lot of people don't understand them. They just don't get it. When a manifestor brings forward an idea or really is just kind of who they are, a lot of people don't get it. And so the repelling nature of their aura is kind of like, it's a protective thing. It's a protection mechanism for them. So in human design, we have energy types, and then those energy types have a strategy and an authority. And a strategy is basically, how do you go about your day and interacting with other people as this energy type. And so manifestors, their strategy is to inform people and then to initiate on things. So manifestors get these urges, for lack of a better word, to do something or take action on something, or they have ideas that kind of come from within, and they run it through their authority and then figure out, okay, am I going to act on this? And when they decide they're going to, they tell other people. The key here for manifestors is when they're telling other people, to know that it has nothing to do with getting permission from others. It's more about, I'm just telling you it's going to happen before it's happening. And this is kind of a point that can really trip up manifestors, because by nature, we're very social people, and we want sort of an acceptance from other people, like, oh, I had this great idea. What did you think? And if somebody gives you this like, I don't know if that, if they don't give you a great response, then it might make you really second guess yourself. Where as a manifestor, if you're getting a clear urge and you've run it through your authority, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and it's a yes for you, then it's something you really should initiate and you really should act on. And in fact, manifestors can end up feeling really burnt out when they don't initiate on things that are really meant for them. Do we have any manifestors here? No. Okay, unless Ashley is potentially. So 8% of the population, they are not sacral beings. Which means they have inconsistent energy access. They're really designed to work 2 to 4 hours a day. So, Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week, I always encourage manifestors to read that book, because they can be super efficient, which is great. But trying to live like a generator, where generators have way more energy and can sustain, really does not work well for them. So that is the manifestor. So next we're going to talk about generators. And I know Lisa's a generator. Any other generators here? Yes, me too. Okay. So generators, maybe Ashley. Oh, okay. Ashley is a manifesting generator. So I'll get to that next. So generators are the life force energy of this planet. We are literally the Energizer bunnies. We are here to get stuff done. We're here to like see through a task. We're here to be masters at whatever it is that we decide to focus on. And we have, super strong follow through, lots of energy. What is very important for generators is to not say yes just because we can and we have that access to, easy energy. And if you are feeling like you don't have a lot of energy or like burnt out, tired all the time, that's a sure sign that you're probably out of alignment. And what that really means is like you're maybe doing things that are not lighting you up, because with generators, when you're doing something that lights you up, it's actually giving you energy. It's making you feel that flush of excitement and that lit upness. So having consistent access to that is truly a gift. And sometimes other people can tend to, like, they sense it in our energy, and so they tend to like pile stuff on to generators. They're like, oh well, she has enough energy to do this, I'm going to ask her, or that sort of thing. So the other thing to note for generators, which is super important, is your strategy, which is waiting to respond. And when I first learned this, because I'm a generator as well, I was like, wait, what? Like, wait? That word is not really in my vocabulary, right? Like, I do not wait, right? We are the doers of the world. So waiting does not compute. But actually, responding is amazing. I think as a generator, it's a great gift that we've been given, because really we can respond to anything. So, it could be you wake up in the morning and it's a super sunny day and you think, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is go for a walk outside. You're responding to the weather. You might pick up your phone and you have a notification about something. You respond to that. You might be scrolling social media and you see something, you respond to that. You might be driving down the highway and see a billboard for something that makes you think of something else. That's a response. So the difference between generators and their strategy and manifestors and their strategy is that a manifestor strategy really comes from within. They're working with something that they get, like this urge that comes really from within them, and it's sort of this inner guidance, versus generators really should be focused on what is outside of them, what is like in their outside environment that's coming into their world. And the beautiful thing is that when you're doing the work that lights you up and you're in this kind of light space, you are super magnetic. And so you just draw in the people and the opportunities that are meant for you by doing that. So the next type is manifesting generators, which is the only hybrid type, but it's literally a hybrid between a manifestor and a generator. And if you have the channel 3420, which is actually, I'm going to pop out and skip slides here, so just so I can show you an example. Whoops. Okay, so using this chart here, if you have this channel that goes from the throat, which is this square right here, down to the sacral, which is this square right here, this would only be for manifesting generators. So Ashley, and then we had Kelsey pop in. I'm not sure what your type is. But if you have the 3420, then that essentially makes you a little more manifestor than generator. And it's just important to know that when you're thinking about your strategy and authority, and kind of how you function, that you're a little bit more on that end of things. Kelsey's a generator too. Great. So there, 37% of the population is generators and 33 are manifesting generators. So together, 70% of the whole world are these two types. So we really do live in a world kind of run by these Energizer bunnies. So with manifesting generators, your strategy is same thing as a generator, really to respond to your outside, whatever's going on outside of you, and then to inform. So because manifesting generators have a defined throat, which just means that that center is colored in, they really need to talk about things. Like they need to communicate about what is going on, what their decisions are. So, as somebody who's running a business, this would be really important to know, especially if you have employees or other people that you're communicating with who are, in some way related to your business or to getting things done in your business. Really important to just let them know when you decide on something or when you're going to do something. Just as generators do, they have consistent access to energy because they've got that sacral defined. Where manifesting generators and generators are really different is man-gens tend to be jugglers. They're like, they can do, 20 different tasks. And not that generators can't do those, but generators tend to take a little bit longer to pivot. So an example, I'm a generator and I'm married to a manifesting generator. And when I get into my work, if I'm doing something on my computer or whatever, and he comes in, hey, Lori, can you come outside to whatever, watch the kids do blah, blah, blah. It takes me a moment or, a couple minutes to just like kind of come out, like reverse out of what I was doing and then pivot to go out and do it. It's just like my mind kind of takes a little bit longer to adapt to what's happening versus him. He's like, I'm doing this and then I'm doing this and I'm doing this. And like, what are you waiting for? So, there could be a little impatience there sometimes, but man-gens also are super efficient and find great shortcuts. Classic, like I will never read the manual type people. I'm just going to put it together. And then when I screw it up, I'm going to come back around and fix it. So shortcut finders, pivoters, they just tend to move like a little bit faster and have a whole lot going on. This is so you, Ashley. Yeah, that's great. And I guess what another difference between man-gens and generators is that generators, for the most part, get the task done that they start. They start something and they see it through in some way, shape, or form. And man-gens are like a little less kind of reliable for that. They see some things to completion. And that's really the manifestor part of them, because manifestors are meant to initiate and not see things through. Like manifestors make great partners for generators, especially in business, because the manifestor can generate ideas and come up with, strategies and whatnot. And then the generators can help actually see it through and make it happen. So man-gens have a little bit of both of those things. Again, with the burnout for man-gens, committing to things that aren't right for you. So, you've got so much energy and you're multi-passionate. So if you say yes because you feel like you should, because maybe you're good at something, then instead of it really lighting you up, it's probably going to burn you out. All right. Projectors are the next type, and they are a non-energy type, which means that they do not have their sacral defined. And I just love projectors. They're so like just amazing people. And, that's very much a blanket statement, but they're really meant to be our guides. And I know a number of different projectors who are really so different from one another. The thing about projectors is they usually know better than the rest of us. They really are meant to be our teachers, and they kind of have this perspective that's different than the way the rest of us function, which is kind of, what's right in front of us most of the time. Being seen is super important for projectors, and they have an aura that's actually penetrating. So if you know projectors, or if you know people who you sit down with them and they're like, you just feel seen at a like deep level, they're probably a projector. They tend to kind of have a pretty distinct energy about them. Sometimes projectors can kind of go into this like bossy pants type of personality, because they do know usually what is better for other people. But the trick is with projectors, and their strategy is that they need an invitation for it. So they might know better, but nobody, like there may be people who just don't want to hear it, right? Or aren't ready for it. So the trick for projectors is to just do what lights them up, do what, their passions are, what they're really excited about, and keep doing that. And eventually recognition will come. If you are a parent of a projector, or you work with projectors, this is really important to know, just to help them kind of develop and to feel confident in who they are as a person. So, they aren't always they aren't feeling bitterness. And I'll talk about the themes in a little bit. I've kind of skipped over those, but projectors, like manifestors, because they don't have that sacral defined, are really more that 2 to 4 hour workday. And then the last type, this is just 1% of the population, are reflectors. And I know a couple of reflectors. And the tricky thing for reflectors is their strategy is to wait a lunar cycle. So like, hold 28 days for big decisions. And really that's about watching patterns and understanding kind of a cyclical nature of their decision making. And they, when you look at a reflector chart, you see that on your charts, some of the centers, some of the shapes are colored in, and some are white, or they might have little numbers colored in, but they're white. A reflector chart is all white. It's like the entire thing, nothing is colored in. And so they're just super open people, and they are designed to mirror us. And when you have an open center, it kind of takes in other energies and amplifies it. So you can imagine, being this type of person, you'd be taking on a lot of different energy all the time. So the environment that you're working in, the environment that you're living in, all of those things are super, super important. So for reflectors, their burnout really comes from either making decisions too quickly, and or committing to things that aren't right for them. And again, that can be tricky, because they really have this license to wake up every day and think like, okay, who am I today? Because they're constantly reflecting other people. Okay, any questions about your type? Some of you knew a little bit about that. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm sorry if you already covered this in the beginning. So when it comes to figuring out your type, so I contacted my mom and she's like, I can't remember what time you were born at, right? Like, I think it was this time, but like, I don't really know. Like, is it like minute to minute accuracy, or is that range okay?
Yeah, great question, Kelsey. Actually, the more accurate you can be, the better, because things definitely do change. Okay, I'm going to get into the energetics of how a chart is actually created. So in a nutshell, the tiniest bits of matter are called neutrinos. And basically what happens is they're floating around in the atmosphere all the time in the universe. And at your moment of birth, they like come into you and imprint. And so that's the idea, is that you're capturing what was happening universally at your moment of birth. So that, you know, the planets have definitely an impact on that. And because some of them are moving really quickly, you know, the moon changes houses, for example, like, is it houses every 2 hours, I think. So anyway, usually if you're within 10-ish minutes, that's kind of your best case scenario. You can, there are a couple of ways to find your birth time if you're not exactly sure. Sometimes they'll have it on record at the hospital that you were born at. You know, asking friends and family if they can remember, you know, what they were doing or that kind of thing. And another way is using a pendulum, which can be, you know, it's a little tricky. And you can also meet with an astrologer and have them kind of rectify the time for you. But with human design, I really think it's meant to be an experiment. And so you take what resonates, and if something really doesn't resonate, then it's really an indication of one of two things. It could be that you got your birth time wrong, or it could be that you're just really conditioned in that, you know, specific component, and that there's work to do there. So yeah, I would say, you know, check to see kind of how this is resonating, and then, you know, kind of go from there. Did the gender type resonate with you?
Parts of it did, but then when you were talking about projectors too, I felt like that maybe was more aligned. But we'll continue on. I'm just curious.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing is to note is we have two different designs, really. So one design, if you got your chart from My Body Graph, you'll see along the side, on one side you'll see black planets, and on the other side you'll see red planets, right down the sides. And the side on the left is your design, which actually happens about 3 months before you were born. And that is all of your unconscious kind of design. And then the side on the right is your conscious design. So sometimes when you take away all of the conscious stuff, which is what you're aware of, you end up with a completely different design for your unconscious. So for example, I'm a generator, you know, for my conscious design, but my unconscious is an emotional projector. So, you know, there are definitely some things that resonate with me about being a projector. So it could be that as well. Okay, so let me see. Okay, authority. So this is really about decision making, and this is probably one of the most, I don't know, impactful components of human design that could really be a game changer for you, especially in business, but really in any place in your life. So we're all pretty used to making decisions with our heads, right? Like, how many of you have ever done like a pro and con list? Yeah. Okay. How many of you have asked other people, like, what do you think about this? You know, should I do this? You know, asking for advice. Okay. Lots of different, you know, methods that we make decisions, especially big ones. And not to say that those don't help, especially help us with a sense of security. But actually, what we're designed to do is for our bodies to make our decisions and to tune into the wisdom that we have in our bodies, because they will tell you what's up. So there are not too many, but there are different types of authorities, and different energy types are able to have the authorities. So this is just a generic chart with all of the different centers and kind of what the center is about from my human design. And these are the different authority types. So There's the emotional authority, which generators, manifestors, projectors, and manifesting generators can have. And that is down here, the solar plexus. So if your solar plexus is defined, then you have an emotional authority. Anybody here with that? Yes, one. Okay, I have an emotional authority. And yep, Ashley does too. Okay, about 50% of the population has an emotional authority. And I'll talk about that in just a second, like what that means. Sacral authority, generators and manifesting generators are the only ones who have this authority because we're also the only ones that have the sacral defined. So who has that? That would be Lisa, right? And okay, so the thing with authorities is you only have one, and which is your authority, and they work in a hierarchy. So basically, if you have the emotional solar plexus, if that is defined for you, then you are an emotional authority, period. If you don't have that defined, if that's white for you, but you have the sacral defined, then you are a sacral authority. And that's it, period. If you don't have either of those defined, then we move to the spleen, and you are a splenic authority, and that is just manifestors and projectors. There are some manifestors and projectors who don't have any of these three lit up, in which case we go to the ego authority, and that would be, again, a manifestor or projector. Self-projected comes up here, and that is projectors. Also up here in the ajna and the throat, sounding board projectors. And then lunar, as I mentioned, is completely white. Just all of these centers, none of them are colored in. Those are, and the only people who have that authority are reflectors. So what does that really mean? So authorities for making decisions look different ways depending on what yours is. So if you're an emotional authority, it means, first of all, that you're an emotional being. So if you, this can change a little bit depending on whether it's unconscious or conscious, but if you're an emotional being, then you probably identify with being emotional. You might have heard you're too much or maybe too sensitive. You know, those might be terms that you've heard before. Ignore that. It's in your design. You're being you. You can't be too you. So, you know, it's probably people who aren't necessarily emotional or could be also emotional and just struggling with helping, like taking that in. So emotional authorities, main thing to remember for you is to sleep on it. Anytime you have a decision, it takes they say 1 to 3 sleeps. And the idea here is that you get this hit usually in your gut that lights you up about something. So say you're planning a trip somewhere, you want to go somewhere, and, you know, as a generator, you're online, you see an ad pop up for, I don't know, a retreat in Costa Rica. And you're like, oh my God, that looks amazing. And, you know, you even lean in a little bit and you get super excited about it. Don't hit the go button yet. If you're an emotional authority, let that rush, that excitement kind of sit and sleep on it, you know, own the high that you were at and you were excited about it. And then when you sleep on it, you're kind of riding the high and low, and you come back down to this relative point of neutrality. And when you're in that point, that's when you want to make the decision. And the question then is, do I still want this? Yes or no? And if it's a yes, then it's a go. And if it's anything other than a hell to the yes, it's a no. If it's like, maybe, like that would be nice, that's a no, especially for manifestors or for generators and manifesting generators. Okay, so if you don't have the emotional solar plexus, then your decision maker is your gut. And the answer for you is in the moment. And there's this saying for authorities with the sacral and the emotional, with the sacral, the only truth is in the now, which is to say that something that's a hell yes in one moment might change a little later, but at least you know in the moment. And then for emotionals, there's a saying that there is no truth in the now, which is to say you have to ride those waves before you really come to kind of clarity. So sacrals, hell yes or no, you're going to know it right away and just be able to call the shots and make the move. If you are neither of those, then you have a splenic authority, which is to say you follow your instinct and your intuition. And intuition can talk to you in a number of different ways. It can be like a little whisper. You can be, which is clairaudience. You can be like clairvoyant, where you see things, lots of different ways, but really just learning how to hone your intuition so you can get those answers. Super important for splenic authorities. Ego is this one here. Again, if these three are not lit up and we're only talking about authority, this one's great because you basically just do what you want. You follow your heart, you do what's best for you, and it's sort of permission to be selfish and do what works for you, because in the end, really what works for you is best for everybody. The self-projected authority talks it out, and your voice brings clarity. And then the sounding board talks it out in the same sense, but in an environment that feels really good. And it takes a little bit more time usually for the sounding board. Self-projected and sounding board are both projector authorities. And it's really important for them to have somebody trusted who will just listen to them, not give them any really not give them an opinion about what they're hearing, but really just be there as a sounding board and to be able to reflect back to them what they heard. Well, I heard you say, you were really interested in this course that you wanted to take. And then when you talked about the other course and you're trying to make a decision about the two, your energy was just sort of blah, like it wasn't super excited as, when you were talking about the first course. So that was my observation. So being able to point out things like that. And then lunar authority, that idea of taking your time and observing patterns, just watching, it's ruled by the moon. So really there are a lot of ups and downs, and just being able to talk it out. And you can also use something called an ephemeris, which gives you essentially like the celestial weather to help you. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I wanted to give us, oh good, we've got about 20 minutes. And if anybody wants to share your chart, I can answer any questions that you might have, or I can tell you a little bit about what else is going on in your chart. Does anybody want to
I got a question.
Yeah.
So
okay.
it's funny when you were talking about like as I'm a generator 2-core, as in like responding. So the planner in me needs to set the gym schedule, put it on the calendar and have it there and do that thing. And then when I wake up on my days about it, I'm like, I'm not feeling like hot yoga. I'd rather just go for a walk, or I could pick the boot camp class instead. And then I'll cancel on the class and I'll be annoyed at myself and feel like, oh, you're just slacking on it. So it's interesting you said that. It made me think that like, it's like the classes are open anyways. They don't all fill up. I could wait till the morning to see how I feel, but like, I feel that that's like not doing the right thing, because I'm a planner and I should put everything on the calendar or I won't commit to it. But I'm not committing to it anyways, because I'm irritated because I'm not feeling like doing that particular thing. So that just makes me think I need to change my gym strategy.
Yeah, and I think maybe having, maybe building in a little bit more flexibility, like just you have a block of time that's like your workout time, you know, and you don't necessarily have specifically what it's going to be, but you know that you're committing to yourself that time. There's another part of our chart. There are a few different places that you can look for this, but there's a part in the arrows. Do you have your chart? Do you have arrows at the top? Does your chart show that?
I pulled the body one as well.
Okay. So I can't remember if they're on the body graph or not. But there are 4 arrows at the top, and one of those arrows, I think it's the top left. If it's pointing left, I'm going to have to double check on this. But I think if it's pointing left, then you're designed for consistency. And if it's pointing right, then you're a little more fluid. Do you see that? Okay. I think
See the 2 arrows on the left side, and they're both pointing, going to the right, pointing to the body.
Okay. So then, you know, there might be other places in your chart that are indicating this need for kind of consistency. But I would say that you want to get away from beating yourself up, right? Like, you're committed to exercise. You've made that commitment to yourself. And at least that's what I'm hearing. And it sounds like you end up with this kind of unintended consequence of not feeling great about it when you don't commit to the actual thing that you put on your calendar, even if you decide to do something else. So if you just put in, you know, I'm exercising today, this block, and then maybe you kind of reverse engineer and like you go back and make a note of what you did, you know, maybe that would kind of fulfill that that feeling of like wanting to accomplish something, or maybe have like enough variety. You know, you don't want to do like 6 boot camp classes probably in the same week. Maybe you want a little bit of variety there. So,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah. Any other questions, or would you like me to take a look at your chart? Does anybody have children here? I know Lisa does. Yes. So part of the reason that human design kind of came to be was really about parenting and taking care of our children. We're moving into this new paradigm starting in 2027. And it's going to look very different than our life right now. And the idea behind human design was really to start looking at these energies and how they work and how they interact with one another in the world. And so knowing that and knowing your child's energy types can be really super helpful in parenting them. So for example, I've got a projector son and a manifesting generator son. And so, you know, if we go on trips, I just know that my projector son, he's probably going to want to sleep in, you know, I mean, he's a teenager, so there's that too, but he is definitely far more tired than the rest of the family. And he lives with two manifesting generators and a generator. So just as an example, and I would say the same thing, you know, if you're working with people in your office or, you know, in your work life, that knowing their design can be really helpful as well. Okay. Other questions?
Can you speak more to the 2027, the significance of that year, Lori?
Oh yeah. So we're sort of in this, we're coming kind of upon a renaissance, I guess you could say. And the emotional part of what's going to happen is the emotional solar plexus is going to change. And it's basically like we're going to be interacting with one another far differently than we do now. Right now, we're very kind of as a whole, we're tuned into emotions, and that's how we sort of understand one another. And that's not going to be like the basis necessarily anymore. So it's a pretty significant change. It's also something that'll take place like, over the next hundreds of years. The last time that we kind of went through a paradigm change was, I think, 1781. And that's when projectors came into being and started being born. And now more and more projectors are being born, which is really interesting. So good to know that, they'll be here to kind of help us. And yeah, just we're definitely in a significant period of upheaval and change. So, buckle up. It's going to be an exciting ride, I think. But I think that's also why more and more people are kind of coming to things like human design to, make sense of what is going on, in the world. All right. Any other questions, or you might not, it might be a kind of a situation where you don't know what you don't know. So you're not quite sure to ask what to ask. One thing I will share is with your centers, those parts in your chart that are colored in, those are where you have consistent access to your energy. And they're places where you have gifts, where you can consistently tap in, and where people are going to come to you for kind of what is in that center. And the parts that are open or white are places where we have usually some conditioning or some growth to accomplish or whatever. But they're also places where we take in others' energy and we amplify it. So for example, if you have an open head center, which is at the very top of your chart, do either of you have that? Yes. Okay, great. Okay. So as an example, with an open head, it's a pressure center, which means that we feel pressure there to, in this case, know things, to like have the answer, to figure things out. Anybody resonate with that? I know I do, which I have an open head. Yeah. And so really what we're designed to do with open head centers is take in ideas. Yeah, Ashley, we're designed to take in others' ideas and amplify them so we can share them, we can think about them. But what's important is to know that they aren't ours. We don't have to worry about them, and we don't have to have the answer. Like, the beautiful part of having an open head is being able to live in the question and being okay with that. So I feel like human design for me has given me this grace for myself to just be like, okay, if I've been in a group with people and everybody's shooting ideas around and everybody's like got the greatest things, and I'm like, just like listening, taking it all in, really enjoying it, but I don't necessarily have, something groundbreaking to offer. I would really kind of beat myself up about that. And it's not necessary, because it's not what we're designed to do. We're here to hear the ideas, to take them in, and then discern for ourselves, like which ones resonate with us. So that's something about open head centers, for example, and could really be important for us in business as well.
That's funny you should say that, because people say to me, oh, you're a really good writer. Can you write this? And I'll be like, you write a draft and then I'll write it for you. And they're like, what? I was like, no, you gotta, I don't care how bad it is. You gotta put the bones out and then I will make it magnificent. But like, when it's like all in me, I'm just like, oh, and I get stuck. But I'm a brilliant editor. I'm like, funny.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good example, Lisa. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not to say that you don't ever act on good ideas. We respond to things outside of ourselves. So, if we hear an idea and it really lights us up and it sounds exciting, then we can take action on it. you know, it doesn't necessarily come from our head. It's, you know, I mean, who was it that said there aren't ever any new ideas? Was that Einstein maybe? Anyway, I believe that that's true. And I think that open heads really experience that for sure. All right. Well, if you are interested, I do human design readings. So I could sit down with you and kind of take a look at your chart and explain all of the specifics, you know, about what it looks like for you. And I can also tailor it, you know, based on if you have specific questions or, you know, an area of life that you're struggling with. I can do that for you as well. So you know where to find me. I'm in the Theia Collective. And thank you so much for signing on tonight. It was great to see you all.
Thank you. It was awesome,
All right.
Lori. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
All right, you're welcome. You're welcome. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.